I never thought I'd be the guy sitting here writing some kind of confession or sharing my personal mess online, but here we are. My name's Mark, and I've been married to Lisa for about 5 years now. We met pretty young, both of us chasing our careers, trying to build something stable, and honestly, I thought we had a pretty good thing going. Sure, we had our moments, but I never suspected anything truly bad until recently. It all started with small signs. Lisa has always been a little bitchy when she's irritated, who is? But she started snapping at me over nothing, being more dismissive, texting more frequently. She'd say she was busy with work, that her boss was onto some big project, that she was learning new strategies at her job. I didn't think much of it at first. She's always been ambitious, competitive even, so I figured she was just stressed. Then came the weekends. She'd suddenly become busy during her weekly chess club nights. Yeah, chess. We both loved the game, but she'd always been a casual player, more for fun than anything serious. But lately, she'd claimed some big tournament she was preparing for, and I'd barely see her. She'd leave early on Saturday mornings, come back late at night, smelling different, some kind of perfume I'd never seen before, and she'd be extra tense and secretive. She'd get defensive if I asked questions, brushing it off with some petty lie about her strategy sessions with her club friends. I didn't think much of it. After all, maybe she was just into chess more seriously. But then I started noticing little things that didn't add up. Her phone kept vibrating at odd hours. She'd hide it when I entered the room, and the worst, she started avoiding me during those nights. I'd come home unexpectedly once, and I almost knocked right into her and this guy, Tom, big guy, kind of scruffy, but friendly, standing in our guest room. They were in the middle of what looked like a heated argument, but Lisa quickly shut the door before I could say a word. When I asked her about Tom later, she said he was just some idiot from her chess club, and that I shouldn't worry about it. Yeah, right. The real tip-off, though, was what I found in her purse last week. I was looking for my keys, nothing unusual, but I saw a hotel key card shoved at the bottom, hidden beneath her lipstick and some receipts. I froze. I pulled it out and her face went pale. She saw me holding it and started with the usual lies. It's just for a friend, some kind of joke. You're reading too much into this. But I knew better. I could smell bullshit from a mile away. I wasn't ready for what I found next. That night I stayed up digging through her phone, which she always kept locked. Somehow I managed to get in. There were messages, flirty, suggestive, sometimes downright explicit, between her and Tom. They'd been planning secret meetings for months in hotels, in the back rooms of some dingy bars, even in our own city during the weekends when she said she was learning strategy. I saw photos of her half-naked, wrapped around him, with captions about how good sex was, and her talking about how much she hated pretending to be interested in me anymore. I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. Everything I thought I knew about her, about us, gone. I'd always believed we were solid, that I knew her. But this was betrayal on a level I never saw coming. My mind was racing, my heart pounding. She lied to me about everything, and I realized she'd been sneaking around behind my back for months, maybe longer. All those nights she claimed she was learning strategy. She was actually with him, probably having sex, messing around, doing whatever they wanted. I was furious, hurt, confused. I didn't sleep that night. I couldn't. The betrayal cut deep, and I felt this strange mixture of rage and heartbreak. How could she lie to my face for so long? How could she betray me like this? I'm not some fool who can just get over cheating. And now I was left sitting here, staring at this evidence, trying to figure out what the hell I was supposed to do next. The next morning, I woke up feeling like I'd been hit by a truck. My stomach was a knot, and my head was pounding from a mixture of rage and disbelief. I kept going over that night's discovery, her secret hotel keys, the explicit texts, the photos. I kept asking myself, how could I have missed all the signs? How long had she been lying? I wanted to confront her right then and there, but I knew I needed a plan. I had to be smart about this, not just react out of anger. Lisa was still sleeping when I finally got up. I put her phone on the charger, but I made sure to keep it close, just in case she tried to hide something else. I decided I needed to get some clarity before talking to her. I went through her messages again, looking for any details I might have missed. There was enough evidence to blow what little trust I had left out of the water, but I needed to be sure about what I was walking into. I also thought about how she'd been acting lately, her bitchy attitude, her quick temper, her dismissiveness. It all made sense now. She'd been sneaking around, lying, probably feeling guilty, maybe even paranoid that I'd find out. That's why she was so edgy and aggressive. They say cheaters get paranoid, and I could see it plain as day. I decided I'd wait until she woke up, then confront her calmly. At least, that was the plan. I didn't want to go in guns blazing, not right. Away, I knew I'd lose my mind if I did. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized I couldn't keep this bottled up. I had to get her to tell me the truth, no matter how much it hurt. I wanted her to admit everything, to look me in the eye and say she'd betrayed me. When she finally stirred, I was already sitting in the living room, my arms crossed, trying to keep my temper in check. She looked at me, sleepy at first, then her eyes darted around, noticing the serious look on my face. I could see her trying to pretend everything was normal, her usual bitchy smirk, the way she brushed her hair back, trying to act innocent. So, I started, my voice low but steady. "We need to talk, about you and Tom, about everything you've been hiding." Her eyes widened for a second, then she rolled her eyes and said, "Oh, here we go, you're overreacting, Mark, it's nothing." "I didn't buy it, not anymore." "I found your hotel key card," I said, holding it up. Her face went from smug to panicked in an instant. "What the hell is this, Lisa? How long has this been going on? How many nights have you been sneaking around?" She sat up straight, crossing her arms defensively. "It's none of your business, Mark. I was just playing chess with Tom, okay? We're friends, and sometimes friends do stuff. You're blowing this way out of proportion." I shook my head, feeling a mix of disgust and betrayal. "Playing chess? You're telling me you've been meeting him in hotels for months, having sex, hiding every damn thing from me. And you expect me to believe that's just harmless strategy sessions?" She scoffed, her voice dripping with disdain. "You're so insecure. Honestly, I don't see what the big deal is. Maybe I'm just tired of pretending with you. Maybe I want something more exciting. You think a little sex with Tom is the worst thing I've ever done?" That was it. My blood boiled. I'd had enough of her lies. I told her she was full of shit, that I knew exactly what she was doing, and that she had no right to act like she was some innocent victim. She snapped back, calling me paranoid, accusing me of spying on her, throwing a bunch of insults my way. Her face twisted into this nasty sneer, like I was somehow the one at fault for her betrayal. I felt a surge of anger, but also sadness. I'd always tried to see the good in her, to believe we could work through anything. But now, I realized she didn't respect me at all. She'd been screwing around behind my back, lying nonstop, and trying to gaslight me into thinking I was the crazy one. It hit me hard that I was just a pawn in her game, and she didn't care how much she hurt me. That morning I went for a walk to clear my head, but it didn't help much. The betrayal was like a bruise that kept spreading. I couldn't eat, couldn't sleep. All I kept thinking about was that she'd lied to my face, that she'd been sneaking off with him for months, and that I was practically an idiot for not seeing it sooner. I felt foolish, used, and above all, broken. I had no idea what the hell I was supposed to do now, but I knew one thing: this wasn't going to end with me just forgiving her and pretending none of this happened. No way. After a terrible day of back and forth, I finally decided I needed to step back and think. I didn't want to explode. I knew that would only make things worse. I sat in our living room, staring at the walls, trying to piece everything together. Lisa was upstairs, probably sulking or pretending she wasn't guilty. Honestly, I didn't care. I just wanted to breathe and figure out my next move. My first instinct was to confront her again, but this time with a cooler head. I knew I had enough evidence to blow her hideout wide open, but I also knew that just yelling at her or breaking things wouldn't get me anywhere. I needed to be strategic. I had to decide whether I wanted to fight for this marriage or cut ties completely. Late that night, I went through her phone again. I was obsessed. I couldn't stop looking at those messages, the photos, the planning texts. It was like watching a nightmare unfold in fast forward. I found more explicit conversations about how much she hated my boring sex, how she'd been fantasizing about Tom, and even plans for their next dating. They'd been playing this game for so long, and I'd been completely blind to it. I also found something that made my stomach turn. A series of messages where Lisa told Tom she wanted to end things with me. Said she was tired of pretending, tired of the fake smile she wore around me. That hit me like a punch to the gut. All those times she said she loved me, all those nights she told me I was the best thing that ever happened to her, turns out she'd been lying, planning her escape while I was clueless. I realized I couldn't keep going like this. I couldn't keep pretending I was okay with her betrayal. I was furious but also heartbroken. I trusted her more than anyone, and she'd thrown it all away for some secret sex with Tom. I felt so stupid for not seeing it sooner, for not noticing how she'd been acting different, colder, more distant. And now I was left trying to piece together how long she'd been cheating, how much she'd lied, how much she'd hurt me. I decided I'd confront her again, but this time I'd be prepared. I wanted her to face what she'd done, not just deny, deny, deny. I wanted her to look me in the eyes and admit she'd been screwing around behind my back. I knew she'd probably try to deny or spin some bullshit, but I was ready for that. I had enough evidence to blow her cover completely, and I was going to make her own lies backfire on her. When I went upstairs, she was lying on the bed, pretending to be asleep. I stood there for a moment, feeling every ounce of anger simmering just beneath the surface. I woke her gently, but my voice was firm. "Lisa, we need to talk. This isn't working anymore. I know everything. About Tom, about the hotel keys, the messages, and I want to hear you say it." Her eyes darted around, caught in the act, then she sat up, huffing like she was annoyed. "Oh, great," she muttered. "You found out. Big surprise, huh?" "I want the truth," I said, my voice trembling but steady. "How long has this been going on? How many nights have you been lying to me?" She rolled her eyes, crossing her arms. "Look, Mark, you're making a huge deal out of nothing. It's just sex. We're not kids. Sometimes people want something more exciting. Maybe I got bored, maybe I wanted to feel alive again, whatever. It's not like I cheated on you with some stranger." I felt my fists clench. Not some stranger, her texts with Tom say otherwise. "They've been planning this shit for months, Lisa. Don't lie to me now." She scoffed. "God, you're so paranoid. You think I'm just some stupid bitch who cheats. You really believe that? Maybe I do want something different. Maybe I want to feel alive. Maybe I just don't want to keep pretending I'm happy with this boring, dead-end marriage." That last part hit me like a punch. I felt my heart crack a little. Because deep down, I knew she was right. Things between us had been tense, distant. But I never thought she'd go so far as to cheat, to lie and betray me in such a cold way. I felt this horrible mixture of rage and despair, knowing I'd lost the woman I loved, the woman I thought loved me back. I told her she could keep her secrets, keep her lies, but I wasn't sure what was left of us anymore. I knew I couldn't keep pretending things were okay. That night, I sat alone, staring at the ceiling, realizing my life had changed forever. I'd been betrayed in the worst way, and I didn't know if I'd ever trust again. All I knew was I wasn't going to let her walk all over me or keep lying to my face. I needed to figure out what I truly wanted, and fast. The following days felt like walking through a fog. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, and every time I closed my eyes I saw her face, her smug look, her dismissive attitude, the lies she'd spun. I'd always believed she was my partner, someone I could trust with everything. Now I realized I'd been blind, fooling myself into thinking we had some kind of perfect union. Turns out, she was just waiting for the right moment to stab me in the back. I tried to keep busy, but every little thing reminded me of her betrayal. Her favorite mug was still on the kitchen counter, half full with cold coffee. I kept thinking about all the times she'd told me she loved me, how she betrayed that trust with some random guy from her chess club. I kept replaying everything I saw in those messages, her explicit conversations, her plans to meet in secret hotels, her disgust with our boring sex life, her crying crocodile tears when I asked what was wrong. I kept telling myself I should just kick her out, file for divorce, forget her. But part of me hesitated. I was still holding on to memories of better times, the moments she'd smile at me, the nights we spent planning our future, talking about a house, kids, vacations. How could she have thrown all that away so casually? One night, I finally decided I needed to do something drastic. I couldn't just sit around and stew over it. I went through her phone again, more carefully this time. I found even more evidence. Pictures of her with Tom, some flirtatious videos and texts where she detailed her plans to leave me, how she was tired of pretending to be the wife I thought she was. It was clear she'd been planning her escape for months, maybe longer. I knew I had to confront her again, but this time I wanted to catch her off guard. My plan was to lay everything out, to force her to admit what she'd done. I set up a hidden recorder, just in case I needed proof. I didn't want her spinning some bullshit story when I had concrete evidence in my hand. That evening, I called her into the living room. She came in with her usual bitchy attitude, trying to act nonchalant like she wasn't nervous. I waited until she sat down, then I played the recordings I'd made, showing her the messages, the photos, everything. Her face immediately twisted into a mix of rage and panic. "You lied to me," I said, voice cold. "You've been cheating on me for months, with Tom, in hotels behind my back. I have the proof." She looked at me, eyes blazing with annoyance. "You're crazy. You're just jealous because I'm finally doing something for myself. Maybe I'm tired of pretending everything's perfect when it's not. You're so insecure. I cut her off. "You're the one sneaking around, lying, cheating. How insecure do you think I am? I trusted you, Lisa. I believed in us. And you just threw it all away like it was nothing." She stood up abruptly, her voice rising. "You don't get to judge me. Maybe I deserve better than your boring ass. Maybe I want to feel alive again, and if that means cheating, then so what?" That was the final straw. I felt a surge of anger I couldn't contain. I told her she was a selfish, manipulative bitch who didn't give a damn about our marriage or my feelings. That I was done. Done pretending she was innocent, done with her lies, done with being a fool. I told her she could leave if she wanted, pack her shit, go live her little fantasy with Tom. I wasn't going to stop her, but I wasn't going to be part of her game anymore. She stormed out of the house, slamming the door behind her. I sat there, breathing hard, feeling a strange mixture of relief and despair. I'd finally confronted her, laid everything bare. But it didn't make me feel better. It just made everything more real. She was gone, and I was left holding the pieces of what used to be my life. The following days were hell. I felt like I was in a nightmare I couldn't wake up from. Friends told me to file for divorce, to cut her out of my life. But part of me still clung to the hope that maybe, just maybe, she'd come back and try to fix what she broke. I knew deep down I'd never trust her again, but I also knew I couldn't keep living like this, waiting for her to come back or disappear forever. I realized I needed to start healing, to figure out who I was without her. I'd been so caught up in trying to fix the marriage, to make it work, that I hadn't stopped to think about myself. Now I had to rebuild everything from scratch. It was terrifying, but I knew I had no choice. If she wanted to go and cheat and lie, that was her decision. The only thing I could control was how I responded, and right now I was just trying to survive the fallout. The days turned into weeks, and I was stuck in this weird limbo. Part of me wanted to reach out, to try to get her to come back and explain herself, but I knew that was pointless. Every time I thought about calling her, I remembered those messages, those photos, the way she looked at me with that sneer. I couldn't just pretend none of it happened, not anymore. She had broken something inside me that I didn't think could be fixed. I started going to work, pretending like everything was normal, but inside I was shattered. I couldn't focus. My mind kept circling around her lies, her betrayal. I often wondered why I was so blind, how I'd missed the signs. I kept replaying all the moments I thought were normal, trying to find some clue I'd overlooked. Maybe I was just too busy chasing a life we'd built, missing how she was secretly tearing it apart. One night I finally sat down and really thought about what I wanted. Did I want her back? Did I want to forgive her and pretend everything was fine? Honestly, I didn't know anymore. The trust was gone, replaced by this gnawing anger and sadness. All I knew was I couldn't keep living like this, pretending I was okay with her cheating on me, with her lying to my face. I started seeing a therapist, something I'd never done before, and it helped a little. Talking to someone outside the chaos gave me clarity. I realized I'd been holding on to hope even when I knew deep down she was never coming back. I had to accept that our marriage was over, that the woman I thought I knew was just a lie. It hurt like hell, but I knew I had to face it if I wanted to move forward. I also began making plans. Not to win her back, no, I knew I didn't want that anymore. I wanted to rebuild myself, figure out what I deserved. I started visiting friends more, reconnecting with my hobbies, things I'd neglected. I even looked into moving out of the house, getting my own place, a fresh start. Every step felt like pulling a Band-Aid off a fresh wound, but I knew I had to do it. I couldn't keep living in this limbo, waiting for her to decide her next move. One day, I found myself staring at the divorce papers I'd filled out. It was a brutal moment, signing away what I once thought was forever. But it also felt like an act of liberation. I was finally taking control of my life. I realized I'd spent so much time trying to save a marriage that was already dead. Now I was starting to understand that sometimes letting go is the only way to survive. Deep down, I was angry at her, furious, even, and I knew that would take time to heal. But I also felt a strange sense of relief. For the first time in weeks, I could breathe again, breathe without that heavy weight of betrayal pressing down on me. I knew that moving on wouldn't be easy, but I was determined to rebuild my life, piece by piece. What I learned from all this: trust is fragile and it's easy to lose. More importantly, you've got to value yourself enough to walk away from someone who cheats and lies. I don't know what's next for me, but I do know I won't ever let someone treat me like that again. I'll keep moving forward, no matter how much it hurts right now, because I deserve better than someone who tears me down and walks away. Now that I've gone through all of this, I spend a lot of time reflecting on everything. I've learned the hard way that love and trust are incredibly fragile, and once broken, they're nearly impossible to repair. I used to believe in the idea of forever, that marriage was about loyalty and partnership. But I've come to realize that sometimes people aren't who they claim to be. No matter how much you want to believe in a fairy tale, reality can hit you hard, especially when betrayal lurks beneath the surface. The most important lesson I've taken from this is that you can't control other people's choices, but you can control how you respond. I could have gone down a path of bitterness, revenge, or self-destruction, but I chose to focus on myself. I've spent my days rebuilding my sense of self, reclaiming my independence. I've learned that setting boundaries and valuing my own feelings is crucial, because if I don't stand up for myself, nobody will. I'll admit, there are still moments when I feel the sting of loss, when I think about what could have been. But I also know that I deserve honesty, respect, and someone who truly cares. I don't regret uncovering the truth. It was painful but necessary, because now I see clearly. Now I can finally start healing and move forward, not weighed down by lies and betrayal. To anyone out there who might be going through something similar, it hurts and it's never easy. But trust me when I say that time does heal and you'll come out on the other side stronger. Don't stay in something that's broken beyond repair. Be honest with yourself. Value yourself enough to walk away if needed. Because no matter how tough it feels right now, you're worth more than someone who cheats and lies. You deserve genuine love, trust, and respect. And when you finally let go of what's hurting you, you give yourself the chance to find real happiness, even if it's hard to see at first.